writer said that we all have like several angels, not just like one holy guardian angel, but we've got like several. Like,
we're going to get a million different opinions. And the question is, like, are these people producing, Crowley says what he says. People are going to argue with it. They're going to say different things. Did they produce something comparable to what Crowley produced? No, they didn't.
No.
So, and that to me is the justification. Success is your proof, it says in the Book of the Law, and realistically speaking, like I said, John Dee is the only person you could argue had comparable success.
Because with me and my experiences, I've had contact with two spirits who have, I think both said they were angels, but I haven't been bothering with that kind of work lately.
Well, it's a question of what that term means, really. Like, there's one point that Crowley says holy guardian angel is a term that he likes and adopted for the work he's trying to do, simply because in itself it's kind of ridiculous. Like, he's like, this should prevent people from going too far with this, because I put this ridiculous name on this thing. If it was too much of a clinical term or a specific term, then people would take things and run with it. That's part of the reason, because there's an argument, there's certain movements in occultism to revise the terminology, so we're not talking about angels and spirits and demons anymore. We have different words for it, like inorganic beings is the perfect example. Like, that sort of removes all the baggage that comes with those words. But then there's the question of, what are we doing this for? Who benefits really from removing that baggage?
Not to mention, it's like you would just create new baggage, essentially, because then you're limiting it to a specific definition instead of some vague, a symbol,
Absolutely.
Essentially,
There's that.
So it's not considered that harmful?
No. He uses that term a lot, but later on, that's when he's writing Magic Without Tears, just to straighten that issue out, because it's one of the last books that he wrote. He's like, look, I'm actually talking about a different, distinct individual, not just part of you.
So
if it was part of us, why would we need ceremonial magic to reach it, right? Like, we could reach it through all kinds of other means. We could just reflect, or we could sit and philosophize. So if magic is necessary, it's necessary because we're going for something beyond what we, without it, are capable of. I always find that, this is like one of the troubling things to me, when people only use magic because they need a new job, or they use magic to get things basically that a normal person can get without calling on occult forces and otherworldly spirits and so on and so forth. It does make, you do both parts of it. But there's a lot of people who will just sit at home and do a ritual and expect shit to pop into their lap without doing the work themselves.
It's called agoraphobia, I think.
Let's see, is there anything I'm forgetting here? Yeah, the big thing, if you do research on this ritual, the major thing that you'll find is academics who are arguing with different interpretations of it. And, well, you can be an academic and argue with this stuff. It's kind of pointless at the end of the day, because they're not actually doing anything. One of my big arguments with the whole Skinner thing is he came up with his revised magician's tables or whatever, and here's the complete and accurate version. It's well, does it matter, really? If people are getting results with 777, why not use 777? Are people getting results or not? Are you going to come up with a version that no one could ever memorize? And this is the whole tendency towards academic credibility, which comes back to the whole rephrasing angels and demons and stuff like that as something that's a little more acceptable or whatever we can talk about in polite society without people going, but really, who cares? What do we gain? Would be my major point. Let's see. I think that in the practical sense, we've covered pretty much everything. So that's good. Does anyone have a question about practically how to do the ritual, something they think isn't clear or needs to be expanded on, or something like that?
Do you have to do it the way Chloe teaches you to do it?
Well, yeah, I kind of addressed this before you were in briefly. No, it's all right. It's all right. Just there's more room for variation with this, because it's kind of more of a traditional thing. Yeah, but I would advise starting off doing it the way Crowley does it, and then if you're gonna fuck with the program, fuck with it later. To do it that way first. What's up?
If me as a female were to do it, is it okay to change the gender around?
That's a good one. No, it isn't.
Okay.
When the phallic thing, the phallic stuff that comes up in there is actually because there's one, actually I should get into this with the visualizations, because it talks about using the phallic, Curl uses the word phallic very specifically in pushing out. So essentially when you're talking about like expanding your consciousness, you would have a giant astral penis, and that's crucial to the ritual itself, that's pushing out there. But the concept of phallus and phallic energy is actually gender neutral. It's actually, the word phallus precludes the association to penis. It's sort of something that came after. So it's a concept that later we said, okay, penises are like this, so we're going to associate penises like this. It's the concept of projection and pushing out there. So that, because if you reverse the genders, then it would be more of a taking in, and that's the opposite of whether you could do a ritual like that, but it wouldn't be the bonus education. Yeah, go on.
How come in the Kabbalic tradition it was always from one father to son? How come girls were never involved in learning the Kabbalic tradition?
Girls aren't involved in a lot of things. That's just one more example of that, basically. You would have to ask someone else what the like sort of scriptural justification would be, but I mean, it's the way it goes. I don't know what else to say.
Because I was just wondering if there's a magical significance to that, or if it was just plain old-fashioned male chauvinism.
They probably were able to argue a magical significance into it, but you could pretty much do that with anything.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying they probably would have argued some kind of magical significance into it, but it's just like rationalizing. You can pretty much rationalize anything if you really break
but
it
it doesn't
down.
necessarily mean that that's the true reason.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just maybe they just want to keep you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like there's a lot of things that are excluded. Like I said, it's just the firstborn son too. So it isn't necessarily strictly a male thing. It's a direct, firstborn line type thing. It's a very exclusive tradition, and traditionally you wouldn't even be allowed to learn it until you were at least like I think 40 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's the rule. So
40 with children.
yeah, because you have to be able to like have already reproduced. It's certain Hindu traditions are like that too. It's like before you can renounce everything and become a yogi, you have to have a family, get that family stable, stuff like that. Then you just kind of leave the world and go off to a monastery for the rest of your life or whatever. But you're required to like propagate your line first or whatever.
Kabbalah traditions still like that?
In Orthodox circles, yes. I mean, right now, in modern, no. See, in modern times, you can say Kabbalah and mean about 500 different things. Like, literally, Kabbalah just means tradition. So, if you want to take it literally, then the tradition would only be among an Orthodox Jewish crowd above the age of 40, firstborn son of someone else who taught it to them, basically.
So all these different authors coming up with these books about the Kabbalah, it's not really...
No, it's not. It's not traditional at all. Actually, to come out with a book about the Kabbalah, traditionally speaking, would be a big no-no.
Have you ever visited that Kabbalah Center they have here in Toronto? No, I went to one of their things.
They charge too much money to be legitimate
Yeah,
in
I
the US.
know. They gave me a free book though. I've never read it.
Anyone trying to line their pockets with this stuff is kind of not,
Yeah.
it's not the point.
I'm curious enough to one day maybe purchase one of their astrology books. One of these days. I've already got like a million other ones. I wanna
Go hit up the
purchase.
Scientology place and grab a book on Dianetics.
Yeah, they bought all up. I saw that.
Yeah,
It's all closed down.
The big thing about the sacred magic stuff is because it does contain no Kabbalistic elements. Like that's sort of what makes it significant and the reason that it's out there. And the Bornless Ritual, like people have tried to like do Kabbalah for like the barbarous names and stuff like that, and just it doesn't really fit at all. It's not what it's for. There's a point in Magic Without Tears that Curly's talking about barbarous words and the use of barbarous words in the ritual, and how just like sometimes even just like pure nonsense that has no correspondence to anything can be a very powerful thing to come out of it. He doesn't go as far as like this speaking in tongues sort of tradition, but it's just like, if this is getting you where you need to be to have the authority to command the spirit or do what you need to do or manifest the power that you need to manifest, then go for it. So be it. Like again, it comes back to success is your proof.
On the note of the barbarous names, Crowley specifically in Liber Semek pretty much defines them as per his sort of definition of them, which there's that argument that they're supposed to be barbarous for a reason that,
Right.
having an interpretation is actually detrimental or whatever. What's your take on that?
I think that his little poems after them or whatever, his little like lines for them are like useful. I don't use them myself anymore, but I used them for years when I started, so I kind of like have it in my head when I say it now. I think that it all depends on what gets a result for people, really. Like, it always comes back to that, right? Not interested in necessarily the most historically accurate version. It's the version that gets the result.
You keep on mentioning results, like what exactly defines those results?
Well, that's why you got to have a clear goal. It's like, I'm doing this to achieve this, and then it's on this timeline, therefore I either achieved it or I didn't achieve it, you know?
Like achieve what?
Well, it depends. I mean, you know, if you're using the Bornless invocation as a preliminary to the Goetia, then that's a pretty easy one. Does the spirit show up or doesn't it? Does it do what I say or doesn't it? If you're using the Bornless invocation to get in touch with the Holy Guardian Angel, well, you know, did you have a result when you were trying to? That's where the struggle with the will of the angel thing becomes important, because if you don't get the sense of struggle or conflict in there, then there's obviously nothing on the other side, you know. So you should have a very genuine sense of, I am struggling with this, or I am in a conflict now. Is that what you were saying?
So the Bornless ritual doesn't exactly have to be used to contact it.
No. Ostensibly, all it is a way of asserting spiritual authority and exercising any kind of like ambient energies or like spirits that might be involved that are interfering with your will and so on and so forth. I don't think they would say will, but like interfering with your soul or whatever. That's its sort of like ostensible original purpose, as far as we know. It's not like it came with a commentary or anything like that.